Hello everyone, welcome back to UKSM Winter. We're going to be going live in a few moments with Danieldj0604 with Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. But before we get into that, I do want to remind everyone that if you can donate, you definitely should. I just showed you a bunch of videos that are everything to do with special effect and what they do. And what they do is absolutely fantastic, helping disabled children and adults alike play the video games that they want to play, how they want to play them. So if you can spare any money at all, every little helps. Just do !donate in the chat, and really do just donate anything that you can, if you can. With all of that said, I'm going to be handing things over to Daniel, and you can commence your run whenever you please. Just remember to give me a little countdown when you're going to start, so that I can start the timer accurately.
Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Daniel, or Danieldj0604, and this is Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. It was released in 2003 and 2004 in Europe, and got remastered in 2017 on the PC, and in 2019 on the Switch version. I have a commentator by my side, the Abysmal Kraken, who can introduce himself right now, if he wants.
Hello, yes, I am the Abysmal Kraken. I also speedrun this game, but I'm nowhere near as good as Daniel. So I'm just gonna give some helpful info along the way, I think.
Yeah, so we could start the run at this point, if everyone's ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Matt?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Yeah, then 3, 2, 1, go.
Right, so we start the game in Uruk, the land of Uruk, where bad things are happening. So Sphinx has been sent to investigate with his fellow apprentice Horus. Instead, we're going to be collecting coconuts. So Sphinx goes around and collects 3 coconuts, which Daniel is doing here. And we get these by throwing rocks at trees. Currently, Sphinx can only do pretty much 3 things. He can run around, jump, and interact with things. So we need to grab these 3 coconuts to feed to a spitting toad, which will help us reach where Horus has got to, because somehow he can jump all the way up there. So Daniel's grabbing the 3rd coconut now and making his way over to the spitting toad. So once we get spat up to this ledge, there are a couple of plants in here that we've got to destroy by throwing rocks at them again. You can just get rid of all of them by throwing a rock straight towards the biggest plant, and it just gets rid of all of them. It saves a lot of time. And now we get the Blood of Ra, which lets us walk on lava and other such fiery substances. So we run up this lava fall and pull this statue to release the lava to enable some geysers. Or geysers. I don't know how you say that word. Geysers?
I think it's geysers.
I'll stick with geysers. Now, these geysers go off periodically, but if Daniel's quick, you can make a 1 cycle, go up the first one, and just keep going without having to wait for them. The Blood of Ra also has a limited time for it as well, so you don't want to spend too long waiting for them. Otherwise, you've got to go all the way back and stand in the blood again. Now, these eyes you're going to see throughout the game, they're essentially just triggers. When the eye sees you, it'll shut a gate or something like that. So you've got to hide from it, run past. There's another one around here. You're meant to throw a rock at it to disable it, but you can just jump towards the gate and it completely forgets you exists and let you pass. Now, this is the first hover in the game. So hovering, as you can see, lets us cover large distances just hovering through the air. You still lose height, but it's still incredibly helpful. And it works because there's a mechanic in the game where if you run off a ledge, even if you're still not on the ledge, if you've run off, you still have a chance to jump. And by abusing this, you can keep tapping forwards, essentially, to start the hover. It does take some practice, and it's not just tapping on and off consistently. There is a bit of timing to it as well, but it's very handy. So we run past these lasers, and this next section is where we get finally our weapon, the Blade of Osiris, which is atop the pedestal up in the middle of the screen now. I know that wasn't very helpful. You probably missed that completely. So we pull this to raise some platforms, and then we can make our way up there. One big advantage of the PC version over the console versions is the ability to skip cutscenes. I think it saves around an hour and a half of cutscenes. So it dramatically reduces the time of the speedrun. So once we get up to this platform here and grab the sword, there is a slow way down, which is unlocking some more Blood of Ra and running back across the lava. Or we can use a hover again, either going one of two directions. This is one of them. And at the end, you can jump and then attack to do basically a sword jump, which is a bit like a double jump, as you saw there, but not quite as good. But since we don't have a double jump at the moment, it works very well for what we need it to. This section coming up, you get locked in a room with some spike spiders, which are notoriously random. They never go where you want them to. So the trick here is to stand by this spiked gate and try and lure them all into jumping into the gate, taking some damage, and then you can finish them off easily. Daniel did a really good job there of guiding them towards the gate.
Yeah, you have to be lucky.
Yeah, you do just have to be lucky.
Sometimes they
You'll
stick
see a
around in their
very
cages. Just chilling in
What was
their
that,
cage.
sorry?
Yeah, sometimes they just stick in their cages.
Yeah, sometimes they just don't want to come out. I've had enough of this, I'm staying inside. And you'll see a great example of how difficult the manipulation of the spike spiders can be later on in the run.
Yeah.
So this is another example of just jumping at the gate causes the eye to not see you anymore. So again, it saves a lot of time. Instead of taking out the eye, you can just run straight through the gate, essentially. And this brings us almost to the end of the introduction section. Just got a couple more fireballs to run past, and then we go up this platform, and we get to the first mummy/prince section. A nice trick here, after you've hit all these switches, is if you jump on the platform straight away, you rise up with it during the cutscene. So you don't have to wait for it to go right to the top, come back down again before you jump on it. Since the timing of the speedruns is so tight, and it's pretty much a very consistent run, any time you can save, 5, 15 seconds, it's well worth it. Right, so this is the prince section, who will later become the mummy. And the aim here is to collect 8 old amulets and give them to your aunt to get the treasure room key and leave the level. Now, the old amulets are scattered about the palace, but 3 of them you are able to dupe. It's very difficult, but you can dupe them, which means 3 fewer locations you have to go to. And obviously that saves a lot of time because you have to pick up less amulets. So the first one you can dupe is behind this eagle statue here. All the dupable amulets are behind eagle statues. They're on the floor.
Nice.
And Daniel got the first one. Excellent. So that's actually a 1-frame trick. It's incredibly difficult. There's no consistent setup for it. It's kind of just muscle memory and practice. And the reason that works is because when you pick up an amulet, you've got 2 ways to do it. You can either run into it, or you can stand near it and press the take button. And if you do both of those actions at exactly the same time, the game will think you've picked up 2 and you'll have duped it. This is just a fairly slow platforming section. There aren't really any ways to speed this up. You've just got to chase a crow around who's picked up a letter. One thing you may see a couple of times during the run is these ledge slides. You can exit them a little early, like this, and then use the trick where you can jump in midair to exit them slightly early and not have to finish walking along the ledge. It doesn't save a whole lot of time, but it does save some time, so it's usually worth going for. because the amulet dupes are so tricky, it's very rare to get all 3 of them. I think it's within all the people who speedrun Sphinx, I reckon it's happened 3 or 4 times, and each one saves, I think each one saves on average a minute. So if you get all 3, it does save 3 minutes of time in your run. It's always very exciting when you get 3.
I would say 2:30, between 2:30
2 minutes 30.
And 3 minutes, something like that.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think it gets progressively less.
Yeah.
So the first one saves the most amount of time. So we've got to put pull both of these eagle statues to reveal a secret passageway behind the throne, and behind the other eagle statue is another amulet. Gonna see if Daniel can dupe this one as well. We usually aim for around 1 to 2 dupes. That's kind of the average after a bit of practice.
No.
Didn't get that one. That's fine. One more thing we've got to pick up while in the palace. I mean, I say it as if it's optional. You have to pick it up to leave the level. Is the Sarcophagus Key. So you may have noticed some sarcophagi scattered around the palace, and these are actually used as secret passageways. And you to finish the level, you have to go through one. By getting this key, you can use the sarcophagi. And there are, I think, a couple of places later in the game where if you have somehow glitched out of this level without the sarcophagus key, you can't proceed. So even if we could find a way to completely skip it, we do need it later in the game, unfortunately. So there we go. We've got the sarcophagus key, and this is the last amulet we are able to dupe behind this eagle statue. And he didn't get that one either. That's fine. That's 1 dupe. So the depending on how many dupes we get, depends which extra amulets we have to go and pick up. And there is one that is through a series of secret passages and platforming sections, which takes a while to get, which is why even getting 1 dupe does save a lot of time. The other 2, you've got to go through this sarcophagus down here and go both right and left, one after the other, to get the 2 last amulets. One thing you might have noticed there is Daniel just jumping straight round the corner. It saves, again, a bit of time. Instead of the usual method of dropping down that bar, just shimmying your way along the bar, you can just jump round there, again, using the method of jumping in midair. It's very handy. It's one of the... I reckon it's probably one of the main mechanics that we use to speed up the game. I was going to also mention, when the prince doesn't take any damage. The prince and the mummy can't take any damage. But if you do fall from a long height, you kind of just go splat on the ground like that. That was actually perfect timing. And it takes a while to get up. That one's unavoidable. But some of them, we do try and drop down and hang on a ledge first, and then drop to kind of minimize the height we're falling. And if we can minimize that enough, he doesn't go splat on the ground, and obviously we get running faster.
Yeah, we will see that in Mummy 1, I think, in the
yes,
Lunar
in the
Cube.
first Mummy puzzle section, we'll see a good example of that. Right, so that is all 8 amulets collected. So we come and talk to our aunt over here. Who knows why she wants the amulets? We don't know. Just wants to collect them, I think. So, of course, you send your nephew on a dangerous quest around the palace. And in return, she gives us the key to the treasure room. So we come in here. Everything's been stolen. apart from a strange sarcophagus. And that's how we exit the level. Right, so while the prince is being turned into the mummy, we return to Sphinx, who's ended up in a strange location, which just so happens to be the location that the prince is now. This is a bit more of a platforming section here, and we've got to be fairly quick to make this rope cycle. If we can jump on this rope straight away, and then we try and jump straight off the rope and onto this platform. Didn't quite make it, that's fine. It does save a bit of time because you don't have to pull the platform up, move the box, and then jump on top of it. Here we just throw the box straight to the other side. It's not a difficult trick, but it's very good at saving time, which I suppose is the main run of the speedrun. Yeah, there's not really any easy trick of getting up to the other side faster. You've just got to throw the box across and stand on it. As you can see, Daniel tries to hit both lanterns at once as well. Many of these tricks don't individually save a lot of time, but over the course of the run, it really does add up. In a moment, we might see. I don't know if Daniel's going to go for it.
Yes, I do.
There's a strat that was discovered recently by a runner called Sat, who runs the 100% category. And the top edges of the ledges that you can see on the other side there aren't accessible until a little later usually, but it is possible to jump from the rope.
No.
Oh, so close, straight to the ledge, which does save. I think it saves about 30 seconds.
Yes.
But it is pretty tricky.
I will try it one more time.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice, there we go. Good job, dude. So we've got to pull both of these, both switches on both sides to get through. Normally, you've got to go through a whole memory puzzle and hitting some switches.
That never happened.
Nobody saw that. It's all good. Those spikes can have a strangely large hitbox. That's unfortunate. Have to do the memory puzzle anyway then. I think you've got to do it anyway yes, of course, to get through. So these higher switches here, normally you need to get that skeleton box and stand on top of it to reach them. But if you jump towards the pillars, it'll push you up ever so slightly to be able to reach them. I am very conscious of Daniel's health here.
Yeah, I will pick up some health in the next room, don't worry.
Yes, yeah. The amulets or the anks at the top represent the health. So I can't quite see. I think it's either he's got a third or 2/3 of an ank left, which is essentially one hit. This next room, I think it was you, Daniel, who discovered a really fast strat for doing this room, where you just hover across to the central platform. Unfortunately, the hover itself is so precise and so inconsistent that it's just not really worth going for. So if there was a tool-assisted speedrun of this, I'm sure that would be in it. But it's at the moment we just haven't found a consistent way of doing that because it is so difficult. So instead, we've got to go round this room and kill all of these skeletons to extend the bridge so we can get to the middle, and that will give us the Shield of Osiris. So one thing to mention with the combat of Sphinx, it's kind of a hidden mechanic. So when you do 3 swings, you do like a kind of slash swing or a power swing, basically. And what the game doesn't tell you is that swing actually does double the damage. So that's going to come in very handy later when we face some of the bosses of the game, because it can pretty much halve the time we spent fighting the bosses. Another thing to note with the fighting is a lot of the time you'll see Daniel only do 2 swings and then wait a bit and start the combo again. And I think this is probably used in a lot of games for speedrunning, is that you don't want the knockback of that final swing because it gives the enemy some invulnerability and knocks them away from you, making them harder to hit. So instead, you just do 2 swings, start your combo again, and on the final swing, you'll finish them off. Here we come to pretty much the boss of this section. We don't really consider it a boss, but it can be a little tricky sometimes. You've got to take out all of these demons, and Daniel did a great job there. The main strat here is just hit them, but you want to hit as many of them as you can in one swing. So we don't really take much regard of our own health. We just swing and hope for the best. But it is a case of trying to time your swings as best as possible to hit as many in one go and speed up the fight.
Yeah, you get healed afterwards anyway, so you don't have to care about your health too much.
Exactly. Right after the fight, you get healed, and we get an extra point of health, which is very handy. After every boss fight, you get an extra bit of health. Right, so this takes us to Abydos, the canal town, I suppose. And we've got a couple of cool tricks in here. So the first thing we've got to do is collect 3 Abydosian pearls for a man who somehow has lost them. One is down a well. One is just in a kind of, well, 2 of them are, you just wonder how he managed to get there and forget about them. So this well has a locked door, and you have to swim to the bottom of the well, pick up the key to exit. But what you're going to see is the first swim glitch of the run, which is where you swim into a corner or some sort of vertical wall while swimming underwater, and you just clip right through it like that. And it's incredibly helpful for getting out of bounds and going to places that you really shouldn't. So we'll see a lot of that later. So right behind here is the second pearl. You do wonder how he got there.
Yeah, look at him.
And as you saw there, Daniel, that was intentional to run over to him because Daniel's going to fall in the water, which is electrified, just to respawn rather than running all the way back. And by walking up to the man, it resets the spawn point to right in front of him, which is very handy because we need to talk to him anyway to hand in the pearls and get the stairs key. Now, the stairs key allows us access to the canal area. And usually we'd run about for a bit here, and the aim is to buy a monster from the monster shop, hand it into the museum, and get a zipline hook. But instead, we're going to hover straight over to the boat to take us to Heliopolis, which normally you need the zipline handle for to go across the zipline. But because we can hover, we're just going to completely skip that. You may have also noticed some little gold things that Daniel's been picking up along the way. These are scarabs, which is they're the currency in the game. And we need a certain amount of these throughout the run. So this is Heliopolis, the desert, and right in front of you, you should be able to see an Eye of Ra post. Now, these fire lasers at you and will send you back to the respawn point, essentially, but you can block them with the shield. And by jumping on this pot, we can completely skip out having to destroy the Eye of Ra post. It skips a whole section of the game. It doesn't look like much, but it's a really big skip. And this one's probably an even bigger skip. This is a sword dive. You run off a little bit of a ledge into some water, and at the same time swing your sword, and you fall right through the ground into some water, and you swim right round this loading zone. That's a big gate that you need a late game ability to open. We just go around it instead. And this takes us to Bedouin Outpost, which very handily sells an ability item that we need that normally you would have to go to speak to Anubis to get. But by buying it here, it means that it will spawn naturally in the world by breaking pots and stuff. So we don't actually need to go and collect it the normal way. We can just spend, I think it's 25 scarabs.
Yes.
And get the ability for a lot of time saved, essentially. And now we've done that, it's time to head over to the first mummy puzzle section. So we're going to use these speed discs to run all the way over there. We've got to cross a big gap of water, but we can just hover across that. And the great thing about the speed boost is it carries across to the hovers as well, so we can gain a lot of distance while hovering with a speed boost. Very nice. Right, and into the mummy section. This is, since you can't really do a whole lot with the mummy in terms of mechanics, the main glitch we're going to be using here is the hover. So I think Daniel's just going to, hover straight across along these boxes, instead of having to shimmy along the bars to the side, which takes absolutely forever. You can just hover straight across. And you may have noticed that Daniel started the hover at the corner of the box rather than just going straight off. And that's because you can only hover off a surface if you can't grab that ledge. If you try and hover off a ledge that is grabbable, it'll just fail the hover. So normally that box trick doesn't work, but as long as you go towards the corner, you're not able to grab it. And that takes us to the main section of the puzzle area, where we've got to push this box. You may notice there's some water on the ground, and that is because the mummy is about to get electrified. So since the mummy can't die, we can get electrified, be set on fire, flattened, many things like that to solve puzzles, essentially. It's a really cool mechanic. And if you step in the water while electrified or on fire, it puts you out. So obviously you've got to avoid the water. Right, now, up in this section, Daniel's going to avoid falling down this pit. We will later, we do need to, but we're going to get to the first side section of the puzzle area, which is teaching you all about electricity. So, of course, we're going to zap ourselves. And what the game wants you to do is to stand on these electric platforms to make them start moving. And that's what we're going to do to raise ourselves up, but we're going to avoid turning these rotating platforms on, because apparently the game thinks it's helpful to make the platforms spin while you're trying to jump on them. So we just completely avoid that and jump on them while they're stationary. And then we'll do the same on this side.
Nope, okay.
Oh, that's a shame.
That was a little bit too late.
Sometimes it's very difficult to tell when those water spouts have actually disappeared or not, because they don't disappear for long. There we go. Both sides turned on. And you probably noticed earlier that when Daniel was electrocuted, he jumped at the ladder and hit something, and that was just I think it's called a wall spider, just clinging to the ladder. So you've got to electrocute that first before you can jump on it.
Yeah, the spider drops 5 onyx scarabs. I know that
Yes,
Jamie
which
missed
I
them
always
in
miss.
his 100% practice.
I completely forgot that, yeah. Yeah, so Oryx Scarabs are the currency when you're doing the mummy levels. And once you've finished a mummy level, all the items you've collected are sent back to Sphinx. So Sphinx can use the Onyx Scarabs you've collected to buy some kind of bonus items, if you want. Right, so now we jump in the pit. That chest back there was a fake one, and we've been flattened, which means we can fit through gaps like this. And that lets us head over here. I think grab the exit key, and also lower the gate to the... Oh, no, that's right. Open the gate so we can put the key we've just acquired, the lunar key, on the pedestal. And that will allow us access to the next mummy section. Or subsection, I should say. So when we get to this next subsection, you're going to see a really good example of how we use hovering to avoid kind of going splat on the floor as the mummy. There's a lot of hovering in this next section, and some of it's rather tricky. So as you can see, this next section is going to be all about fire. I should also say these abilities don't last forever. It does depend level to level how long they give you. As you can see here, Daniel's hovered down just a little way to minimize the height he's falling. And we set that gas alight, and we can run back to that later to set ourselves back on fire. So the main objective of this room is to extend those platforms, or bridges I should say, by setting these things on fire. There are 3 of them, but extending all 3 takes a lot of time, so we only extend 2, and then we hover across the final gap, or the middle gap here. When I say here, I mean in just a moment, because I forgot you had to extend the final one. There we go.
I practiced the longer hover I did earlier in the submission video. It doesn't work for me anymore. I have no idea. So I'm back using the old one.
This is the tough hover here.
Yes.
Ah, Daniel's nailed it. Nice one. I think it's tough because you've got to do it consistently, but only for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And then jump right at the right moment.
I have no idea how you and Boaster did this with a controller.
I bound forwards to one of the shoulder buttons, and then just practiced. Yeah, so when you're hovering, it depends on how you're feeling for whether you want to do it on keyboard or controller. Doing it with a joystick is, I think,
Hardest way.
much more difficult. Yeah. Right, there we go. That is the second subsection done. We need to keep this fire though, because we need to go and pull a lever in here. And this is that point where you need the Sarcophagus Key, which while I was messing around with dev options and hadn't given myself the Sarcophagus Key, I suddenly realized, you do actually need it for this section.
So if we someday find a way to skip the palace section, the prince palace section, we actually need to get the Sarcophagus Key and then skip it.
Yes, or find a way to skip that sarcophagus as well.
Yeah, but don't think that's gonna happen.
No, I feel like we're at the point now where it's going to be very difficult to find anywhere else to save time.
Yeah.
Although we did say that
Couple of times
about a year ago, and saved another 5 minutes on the run or something. So, that was incredible. I've never seen it done that fast. Daniel just, so you can jump on top of the key as it's going in, and it kind of pushes you through the door. Daniel made it look very simple. It takes,
pretty
it's
precise.
very inconsistent. And yeah, that was incredible. There we go. Right, we're back in Abydos. So the mummy picked up an item called the Wings of Ibis, which now allows us to double jump. Now Sphinx has it. So now we have that. We can do a very, very difficult skip called pass card skip. And essentially all it is jumping over a gate. But that gate, the invisible walls for that gate are rather high. And to get over it, we do need double jump. Otherwise, I think we could probably head there straight away if we didn't need it.
Yeah, we could skip Mummy 1 entirely, I think.
Maybe. There's probably other points where we need double jump, but this is definitely a big one. So what Daniel's going to do is jump on that zipline post, then jump on this top of this eagle statue and try and hover just far enough without losing too much height. Oh, unlucky. That was very close. Without losing too much height, then double jump just over the invisible wall, do a slam attack, which you can do now you've got double jump, and as he's falling, rotate himself round so he's back in bounds and on the bridge. Oh, so close.
Doesn't want to work today.
Sometimes it takes a while. It's a deceptively difficult strat to do, but it does skip a lot. It really does skip a lot of the game.
No, shit.
There we go. Just about made it. Nice one. So if you fall to the wrong side of that banister, I think you either get stuck or just fall in the water and have to do it again.
Oh,
But it is a matter of.
Piranha.
Oh, was it swimming in the air?
No.
I really don't know what.
Unfortunately
Oh,
not.
it wasn't. Oh no! Don't forget the safety save, by the way. So we are almost at the point where we're fighting our first boss. So we are going to do a safety save before each boss, just in case. Yeah, sometimes those piranhas, they just spawn and start swimming around in the air. I hope it doesn't get fixed because it's really funny.
Yeah.
So here's another swim glitch. And we go back in bounds with this one because it allows us to swim on top of the water, meaning we don't have to swim super fast and risk running out of air, because that would just kill us. And the thing about this game is, if you have, well, currently, if you haven't saved and you die, you will go back to the last save point. So since we haven't, well, we've just done a safety save. If we hadn't done that and Daniel had died, it would have just gone back to the start of the game. And here we are in the Apocalypse fight, the first boss fight. Now, we don't hit the boss directly in this one. There are 4 pillars surrounding the boss, and we've got to wait for the boss to throw bombs at them to reveal these crystals inside. And then we've got to go around and make sure all the crystals are activated at the same time to hit the center crystal, which then hits the boss. And if you do it at the wrong time, while the boss is in the middle of an attack animation or something like that, it just doesn't hit him. So it's got to be fairly well timed. There we go. So that's 3 of them revealed. Thankfully, this boss pretty much is very scripted, in that as long as you do exactly the same thing every time, you don't really have much to worry about. You know which attacks he's going to do. That wind attack is the main killer, though, because if you're not really paying attention, that'll push you off the platform and completely screw up any plan you had. There are also some little cracks in the floor which extend in from the sides. I've fallen down those so many times.
Yeah, me too.
Just trying to be impatient. There we go. So that's the first hit. Now all the crystals have been activated.
This one right here.
Yeah, that one. That's the one. It's like, oh yeah, I can make that.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, still fighting the boss. So from here on, just as long as you just go around and hit all the crystals, it's a very easy fight. This last cycle, the boss doesn't even attack. He's waiting for his bombs to go off. And there we go. That's the first boss done, which gives us the Abydosian Crown. Now, at this point, I can probably say what the objective of the whole game is. Now, the game finishes when we defeat Set, who is the god of darkness. And to get to Set, we've got to go to Anubis and bring him some items, and then he'll send us to Set. Now, so what Anubis wants is the Crown of Abydos, which we've just collected, the Crown of Uruk, and the Crown of Heliopolis. And he also wants 3 fire armadillos, because apparently he really likes those. So we've got to go and collect all of those. We don't have to give them one at a time. We can collect all of them and then go and give them all in one go, which is what we do during the speedrun. So we use the kind of the last of our money here to sail back to the start of Heliopolis and enter Great Wall 1, which is where Anubis is. But we won't be going to see him yet. What we need from here is the blowpipe. And we also collect the 3 fire armadillos from here as well. Now, this uses the capture beetles that we bought earlier. And capture beetles work in a way that these monsters, you've got to get them down to 1 hit of health. Or you can do that. That's true. That's a very fairly new glitch, where normally you've got to get the monsters down to 1 hit of health and then throw a capture beetle at them, and it will capture them. But if you have a capture beetle kind of positioned on the monster and hit them at the same time, it'll just capture them instantly, it's very tricky to do because the capture beetles are tricky to maneuver, but it does save time in hitting the monsters more. So you saw there, Daniel actually uses the fire armadillo that he captured, and you can do this with 2 monsters, with the fire armadillos to burn stuff down, and also slim burbles, which are essentially an explosive frog. And obviously that's used to blow up cracked boulders and similar things. We'll see some of those later. So since we used one of our fire armadillos, we will have to collect one more on the way out. Quick memory puzzle, and that is the blowpipe. So I think that's the last of the ability items we'll be collecting. There are some different darts for the blowpipe, so different types of darts which do different things, and we will be collecting some of those, but that's the last main item we'll be collecting, I believe.
Can't think of anything right now.
Excellent. So, now we've collected those armadillos and got the blowpipe, we are going to be heading over to the Pharaoh Spider boss. So we are walking towards the Cursed Palace, where we're going to make a safety save, because there are many things that can go wrong here. Firstly, we've got to get into the boss arena, which involves clipping through a wall, not soft locking, and getting back in bounds. And you can soft lock in a couple of ways here. Sometimes when you clip through the wall, the game just doesn't let you back in bounds. Sometimes you'll fall straight into the boss arena, not through the entrance, and there's no way out from that. And I think they're the only two ways of soft locking. So we just run at the wall here, and it's a little inconsistent, but it shouldn't take too many tries. But the boss itself is fairly simple once you know how to a fairly good strat of dealing with it. Oh, see if yep, Daniel's got it. Nice. So you kind of just miss the boss arena, which you can see. We're outside. We're gonna walk around and get back in bounds. And then after the boss fight is finished, it takes us to another mummy level. Now, we don't want to go to this mummy level. We want to go to a different mummy level. So what we do is we run to a save point, save, and quit out and load back in. And I'll show you that well, Daniel will show you that in a moment. So here you can see that mechanic I talked about earlier, doing double damage on your third swing. Daniel's used that twice already. This boss has, essentially, you've got to do 5 hits to it. It's already down to only 1 hit needed to defeat it. Which is incredible, because that was insanely quick. And the way these bosses work, essentially, the Pharaoh, Spider, the Geb Queen, and Set, you can't hit them unless you've done a certain action. So with the Pharaoh Spider, you've got to hit him with a stone, and then you can hit him. Once you've hit him, he goes invulnerable again, and you can't hit him until you hit him with another stone. So by hitting him on the third swing, you do double damage and essentially half the time of the boss fight. So here you see, Daniel's run straight over to a save point as you load in, quit out, and then load it back in. And normally if you don't do that and you just wait, the game fades out into a cutscene which takes you to a new area. But by saving, quitting out, and loading back in, it takes you to the original area. We can run straight out. All the Guardian Eyes have disappeared, and we can run into a completely different, but shorter mummy section. It also takes us out in a more favorable position as well for Sphinx. Here we have the triple mummy, so you can use the shoulder buttons to switch between each of the mummies. When you're not controlling them, they just stand still. But you can use them to activate switches. And pretty much you just have 3 mummies that you can control independently. There is a lot more to this mummy section than we'll be seeing, but obviously we do a hover to skip a lot of the puzzle. There we go. That can be quite tricky because you do have to switch between the 3 mummies very quickly to get them all off the elevator in time. Right, that's the use for the other 2 mummies done. Now we're just going to go and collect one of the stolen jewels and set ourselves on fire. The main objective of this whole mummy section is getting across to the final area where there's a fire puzzle. You've got to light lanterns in a certain order. And to do that, you're meant to go to a load of different other sections to raise those platforms in the water you can see, so you can get across to the final bit. But we can hover from this ledge all the way across without having to raise those platforms and just do the final puzzle, which is just a set pattern. So we just remember this pattern, light the lanterns, and finish the level. There we go. Now we're back as Sphinx, and we'll be heading over to Uruk Islands to face the Geb Queen. But first, we've got to get into Great Wall 3, which I believe that just gave us the item to get into Great Wall 3.
Yep.
But it's a little slow. So we kind of clip out of bounds and hover behind the loading zone for it.
Okay.
Oh, close. So what Daniel was trying to do there was hover along that cliff face and jump onto a ledge, which it gets you to a section of the wall which has no collision. So we just go through that and then hover over darkness and then kind of go over the gate that we would normally have to unlock. Here we go. So the statues in the bottom left we would normally have to push, but we can just hover all the way behind the gate and into the loading zone. Very well done.
Yeah, that hover is so difficult. It's so long.
It is really difficult. It's surprisingly difficult how consistent you've got to be with the hovers, especially for a long time.
Mm.
So here we do another swim glitch and skip out this whole section, which would have taken another 5 minutes. Just these water spouts you can see, they usually just push you into the pool to the right, and you've got to swim all the way back if you haven't disabled them. We can just swim right the way under them and skip them out completely. So you'll see Daniel's still swimming here, and we need to not be swimming. So if you swim over a pool of water, the game realizes, hang on, you're swimming, but the surface of the water is below you, and makes it so you're not swimming anymore, which allows us to access the teleporter and anything else we need to do. So let's see if he gets it.
Yep.
Excellent, nice. That saves about another 30 seconds. Usually, when you activate that platform, it causes Sphinx to stand still, and you've got to wait for it to go all the way to the bottom and then all the way back up to the top again before you can get on it. But by jumping off the edge at the right time and clinging to the ledge, it stops Sphinx from being frozen. So when the platform appears, you can just jump on it. Sometimes, though, if you jump in the wrong angle, it'll spawn the platform slightly further away than you can jump. And this is Uruk Temple, so we've got a couple of puzzle sections to do. A couple of puzzle fighting sections. It's not too bad, but there are a couple of bits, especially the bouncing darts, which are very RNG reliant and can be a bit of a pain sometimes. So these patterns that Daniel's putting in, they are consistent for every time you play the game, but you do have to reveal a pattern to actually be able to put it in, which is why we've got to go through all of these sections. As you can see there, Daniel's trying to capture that demon, and that's not because we need the demon, but by capturing it, we would spend less time fighting it. So that's what Daniel does here with the green worm. He also hits the rope at the same time, causing 2 cutscenes to happen at the same time, and obviously if they're happening at the same time, it does save time. These are the bouncing darts I was talking about. There's a target behind here that we've got to hit, and the bouncing darts are very random, so we've got kind of a setup for it, but it's really difficult to find exactly the right angle to fire the darts to hit the target. So we've got to cut one more rope to reveal the pattern, and then we've got to go and pull a lever, and we could just run around the lava and pull it, but it's a lot easier to just hover over the lava. You'll see that now. So there is, right above Daniel as he was jumping, there is actually an invisible collision box there. So you've got to go just low enough to the lava to be able to go under that. And we do jump in the lava at the end there because it sends us to the start of the room. They're putting in the pattern for the 3rd room now. And this is where you'll see some...
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
You actually have to be in the room.
Sometimes that happens, yeah. That's, I think if you leave the center, even after putting the pattern in before the cutscenes happen, it won't play the cutscene until you get back to the center.
Okay.
But here are the Slim Burbles, the Explosy Boys. We'll call them that from now on. They are the explosive frogs. So we need, I believe, 3 of those.
Yeah.
I personally usually go for 4 because I think Daniel's doing the same just for safety, because the last one we use can sometimes explode a little early. The game wants you to think you need more than 3, but you can just jump on that statue and skip out a couple of pillars. So that unlocks the pattern grid for the exit gate, and this is the one that can be a little tricky, but no problems today. And what we can do here is, if we stand close to the gate as we put the pattern in, and then as soon as we put the pattern in, run towards the gate, we can pick up the exit item and open the gate and then just run straight through it, which pretty much saves an unskippable cutscene. Right, and I think Daniel's going to do the safety save after the first walk.
Yeah, so I don't have to collect the key.
Yes,
again.
yeah, right. So we need to collect the key to enter the Geb Queen fight first. Then we'll come back here, do a quick save, and go and fight the Geb Queen, which is notoriously the, I suppose, the run killer for speedruns. It's so RNG dependent, and you will see in a moment why. that tree can be an absolute nightmare because those roots it puts down can kind of pop up anywhere and hit you. And if it hits you while you're carrying this statue, it'll force you to drop it. And those platforms you jump across don't stick around long. So I think Daniel did a great job of taking out the tree quickly there. That's also another very interesting mechanic, is pick up items you can pick up, like cages and those statues. If you throw it at an enemy, it'll kill them in one hit. So that's what Daniel did with the demon there, just to save being hit by it too much, because we do need a lot of health for the Geb Queen fight. So a quick safety save here, and then we will get to the fight. I think the Geb Queen fight it's a very unique fight design. I do like the design. It's just one element of it makes it incredibly frustrating.
The design is great, but the spiders are...
Yeah, the AI of the spiders kind of ruins it a little. So when we enter the fight, you'll see the Geb Queen, and she sends out these blue balls, which will turn you into a frog, which can jump very high. Now, we need to be turned into a frog to jump on a ledge, release some spike spiders from their cages, and then jump back down. And as you can see, the Geb Queen is protected, so we can't hit her at the moment. But when the spike spiders latch onto her, she will become vulnerable. So, all you've got to wait on is the spike spiders actually latching onto her. And they don't like doing that. They always miss, or they go in the wrong direction, or there you go, it's completely missed. So it can be, it can take its time. And the spinning attack that Geb Queen does, you'll see Daniel run into that sometimes, and that is to just essentially stop it faster, because otherwise it will take a long time. There we go, so we turn into a frog again, and this time Daniel will release both of the spike spiders. Now, this is because when the Geb Queen reaches a certain health threshold, she will release these demons to the side, which the spike spiders would rather target over her. I mean, they don't seem to be going for her anyway, but yeah, that's 4 out of 6 health done. There we go. Lovely. That was a very smooth fight. Didn't even see the demons. The demons to the side can, because the demons will attack you. They'll attack the spike spiders, and they'll also distract the spike spiders from latching onto the Geb Queen. So it can really prolong the fight far longer than is necessary. And that is the final crown. So Daniel's heading over to Anubis now with all of the items needed to go to Set. So we individually hand them all in. And then we'll be sent over to Set. And the Set boss fight works pretty much the same as the Geb Queen and Pharaoh Spider fights, in that you've got to try and do double damage as much as you can. We've got this little intro section to the boss fight. There is a ray that tries to hit you, and it will send you back to the start of this area. But there are a few little nooks and crannies that we can hide in to avoid the laser. I don't know how that one doesn't hit, but it's very handy. Right, and that is it. We are at the final safety save and warp to the boss fight. Here we go, final boss fight. So the first attack that Set always does is fire flames from his hands. They do more damage than the lava does. So, and if you don't avoid them, you've just kind of got to run with them. So it's a lot easier to just jump in the lava, take less damage, and not have to stay in that little cone of between the flames. Now Set will send out these barriers that you've got to avoid, getting increasingly more complex each time you try and hit him. And Daniel did a very good job there. Those robots that you just saw Daniel go past, they can be a real pain too, especially when they spawn near where Set is sending out his barriers, because they will knock you back a long way if they hit you and completely interrupt the combo you're trying to do. So it's just... I think there are a couple of ways to manipulate where they spawn, but I don't really know any consistent ones. It's kind of just luck sometimes. But again, when what makes this boss so difficult, especially with speedrunning, is that you can't hit Set on the ground when his hands are closed. So if you try and hit him when his hands are open, and you start your combo, by the time you finished it, that was close. By the time you finished it, he will have closed his hands and you can't hit him anymore. So you've got to start it when his hands are closed. But it does take a bit of practice to get the timing down. Now this final phase, Set fires out these kind of mini lava pools. And if there's one right in front of him, which there almost is, that will actually interrupt your combo if you walk in it. So, time is coming up in this hit. Time. That was a fantastic run. Well done, dude. Yeah, if that lava pool falls right in front of Set, you can't get the double damage in, so you've just got to take it on the chin and hit him. But yeah, that was a fantastic run.
So, thank you for watching. This was the run, apparently. Big thank you to Kraken for commentating my run.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, feel free to join our Discord if I can advertise our Discords here.
And also check out the game on Steam if you want. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah, go ahead. You can advertise whatever you want.
Okay.
We really don't show off much of the game itself.
I think it's on discount right now, Sphinx, for $3, I think.
Yeah, it's very cheap.
It could be over right now, but I'm pretty sure it's still on discount. We have a community Discord and a speedrunning Discord. If you want to start speedrunning this game, just let us know. We will help you with everything we can. And yeah, that was it from my side.
Thank you for having us.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both for doing such an amazing job at this run. Both Daniel, you for the commentary, and Kraken, you for the incredible commentary over the course of the run. We're going to be going back to our intermission as we set up for the next run, which is going to be Osmorn playing Late Matter in the any% NMG category. That is scheduled for 5:35, so you've got about 25 minutes to wait. But we'll be back as soon as that time hits for the next run. See you all very soon.